This is Land of Havilah, Judges 20. In the last chapter, a Benjamite mob attacked the old man's house. They raped and abused the concubine so that she died. The Levites sent the body parts throughout all the borders of Israel. When all Israel heard about it, they expressed their shock. They said, "Such a deed has not been done since we left Egypt, but are they going to do anything about it?" Verse 1. Then all the children of Israel went out, and the congregation was assembled as one man from Dan even to Beersheba, with the land of Gilead, to Yahweh at Mizpah. Comment: Dan to Beersheba is far north to far south, and Gilead is across the river, so this means Israelites from all the tribes showed up at Mizpah. There's a Mizpah in Gilead, but this is a different Mizpah near Gibeah, Joshua 15:37. An army of Israelites turned out there. It says they turned out to Yahweh. In other words, they've come because they believe it's their holy duty. This took place when Phinehas was still in service as priest, as we'll see in verse 28. Phinehas was alive during the days of Moses, Numbers 25:7, so the incident in this chapter occurred within one lifetime of entering the Promised Land. It's so shocking that such pervasive depravity overtook Benjamin so quickly. Verse 2. The chiefs of all the people, even of all the tribes of Israel, presented themselves in the assembly of the people of God, 400,000 footmen who drew sword. Comment: 400,000 men of war turned out, which is a good percentage of all Israel, because when you take away Benjamin, there are only about 550,000 total at last count, Numbers 26, 41, and 51. Over two-thirds of Israel responded. Verse 3. Now the children of Benjamin heard that the children of Israel had gone up to Mizpah. Comment: coming up, the Israelite army wants to know more about the incident at Gibeah, still in verse 3. The children of Israel said, "Tell us, how did this wickedness happen?" The Levite, the husband of the woman who was murdered, answered, "I came into Gibeah that belongs to Benjamin, I and my concubine, to spend the night. The men of Gibeah rose up against me and surrounded the house by night. They intended to kill me, and they raped my concubine, and she is dead. I took my concubine and cut her in pieces, and sent her throughout all the country of the inheritance of Israel, for they have committed lewdness and folly in Israel. Behold, you children of Israel, all of you, give here your advice and counsel." Comment: centuries later, the prophet Hosea cited this incident as an all-time example of deep corruption. Hosea 9:9. Verse 8. All the people arose as one man, saying, "None of us will go to his tent, neither will any of us turn to his house. But now this is the thing which we will do to Gibeah. We will go up against it by lot, and we will take 10 men of 100 throughout all the tribes of Israel, and 100 of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000, to get food for the people that they may do when they come to Gibeah of Benjamin, according to all the folly that they have worked in Israel." Comment: they said, "No one is going home. We'll cast lots. A tenth of us will work behind the lines to supply food. The other 9/10 of us will fight. We must do to the Benjamites according to their crime." All this is in accordance with Yahweh's command in Deuteronomy 13:5, quote, "You shall remove the evil from among you." In case an entire city of Israel is united in some abomination, Yahweh's law for Israel through Moses is, quote, "You shall surely strike the inhabitants of that city with the edge of the sword, destroying it utterly with all that is therein, and its livestock with the edge of the sword. You shall gather all its plunder into the middle of its street, and shall burn the city with fire and all of its plunder to Yahweh your God. It shall be a heap forever. It shall not be built again." Deuteronomy 13:15 and 16. Verse 11. So all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, knit together as one man. The tribes of Israel sent men through all the tribe of Benjamin, saying, "What wickedness is this that has happened among you? Now therefore deliver up the men, the wicked fellows who are in Gibeah, that we may put them to death and put away evil from Israel." But Benjamin would not listen to the voice of their brothers, the children of Israel. Comment: the entire tribe of Benjamin is uniting themselves with the mob in Gibeah. Verse 14. The children of Benjamin gathered themselves together out of the cities to Gibeah to go battle against the children of Israel. The children of Benjamin were counted on that day out of the cities 26,000 men who drew the sword, in addition to the inhabitants of Gibeah, who were counted 700 chosen men. Among all these soldiers, There were 700 chosen men who were left-handed. Every one of them could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. Comment, Benjamin has 26,000 to go up against the rest of Israel. In verse 16, left-handed is actually in Hebrew not exactly left-handed, but it says men who are bound in their right hands. This might indicate that these men had specifically trained themselves in swordsmanship to use their left hands by restricting their right hands on purpose. That's from the NET Bible translation notes. This would give them an advantage against right-handers in the same way that many right-handed baseball players have trained themselves to bat left-handed. Verse 17. The men of Israel, besides Benjamin, were counted 400,000 men who drew sword. All these were men of war. Comment, 400,000 versus 26,000. Verse 18. The children of Israel arose, went up to Bethel, and asked counsel of God. Comment, Bethel was home of the ark in those days, according to verse 20. The exact locations of Bethel and Gibeah are in dispute, but the distance between them is 15 miles at most, so the battleground's close enough to the ark to go back and forth to inquire of God. In Bethel, still in verse 18, they asked, Who shall go up for us first to battle against the children of Benjamin? Yahweh said, Judah first. The children of Israel rose up in the morning and encamped against Gibeah. The men of Israel went out to battle against Benjamin, and the men of Israel set the battle in array against them at Gibeah. The children of Benjamin came out of Gibeah, and on that day destroyed 22,000 of the Israelite men down to the ground. Comment, Day 1, with Judah leading the fight, 26,000 Benjamites kill 22,000 men of Israel. Why did Yahweh allow such a defeat? It seems the men of Israel are there for the right reason. This is what Yahweh commanded them to do in case of an abomination in Israel. And they did the correct thing in consulting Yahweh before the battle. The text offers no explanation. In the Bible, as in life, there's not always an explanation. There's only continuing trust in Yahweh. Coming up, Day 2, verse 22. The people, the men of Israel, encouraged themselves and set the battle again in array in the place where they set themselves in array the first day. The children of Israel went up and wept before Yahweh until evening, and they asked of Yahweh, saying, Shall I again draw near to battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother? Yahweh said, Go up against him. Comment, Yahweh commands Israel to go up against Benjamin again. Israel is doing the right thing. Verse 24. The children of Israel came near against the children of Benjamin the second day. Benjamin went out against them out of Gibeah the second day, and destroyed down to the ground of the children of Israel again 18,000 men. All these drew the sword. Comment, again Benjamin inflicted heavy casualties, and again there was no explanation why Yahweh allowed that to happen. You and I can get bad results even if we're doing the right thing. We just have to keep doing it, keep accepting whatever comes of it, and keep trusting Yahweh. Sometimes God is pleased to give victory, and sometimes he's pleased to have martyrs. Verse 26. Then all the children of Israel and all the people went up and came to Bethel and wept and sat there before Yahweh and fasted that day until evening. Then they offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before Yahweh. The children of Israel asked Yahweh, for the Ark of the Covenant of God was there in those days, and Phinehas the son of Eleazar the son of Aaron stood before it in those days, saying, Shall I yet again go out to battle against the children of Benjamin, my brother, or shall I cease? Yahweh said, Go up, for tomorrow I will deliver him into your hand. Comment, Yahweh commands round 3, but promises victory this time. Verse 29. Israel set ambushes all around Gibeah. The children of Israel went up against the children of Benjamin on the third day and set themselves in array against Gibeah as at other times. Comment, this time there's some strategy other than just a frontal attack. Part of the army is arrayed in plain sight as before, but now there are invisible ambushes around the city as well. Verse 31. The children of Benjamin went out against the people and were drawn away from the city, and they began to strike and kill of the people as at other times, in the highways, of which one goes up to Bethel and the other to Gibeah, in the field about 30 men of Israel. The children of Benjamin said, They are struck down before us as at the first. But the children of Israel said, Let's flee and draw them away from the city to the highways. All the men of Israel rose up out of their place and set themselves in array at Baal Tamar. Comment: the Benjamites think the army of Israel is retreating in disarray, but it was just the appearance of retreat to draw the Benjamites away from the city. The Israelites ran to Baal Tamar and turned around to confront the Benjamites. Meanwhile, still in verse 33, Then the ambushers of Israel broke out of their place, even out of Maareh-Geba. Comment: Maareh-Geba is fields of Gibeah. The ambush was hiding in the fields around Gibeah, and they're going to sack Gibeah. Verse 34. 10,000 chosen men out of all Israel came over against Gibeah. And the battle was severe, but they didn't know that disaster was close to them. Comment: the main battle at Baal Tamar was severe. Verse 35. Yahweh struck Benjamin before Israel, and the children of Israel destroyed of Benjamin that day 25,100 men. All these drew the sword. So the children of Benjamin saw that they were struck, for the men of Israel yielded to Benjamin because they trusted the ambushers whom they had set against Gibeah. Comment: the men of Israel yielded to Benjamin, which is a repeat statement that they retreated on purpose to Baal Tamar. In the end, 25,100 Benjamites were killed on the day. Coming up, there's a more detailed explanation of what happened, a reiteration of what we just read. Verse 37. The ambushers hurried and rushed on Gibeah. Then the ambushers spread out and struck all the city with the edge of the sword. Now the appointed sign between the men of Israel and the ambushers was that they should make a great cloud of smoke rise up out of the city. The men of Israel turned in battle, and Benjamin began to strike and kill of the men of Israel about 30 persons, for they said, Surely they are struck down before us as in the first battle. But when the cloud began to arise up out of the city in a pillar of smoke, the Benjamites looked behind them, and behold, the whole city went up in smoke to the sky. The men of Israel turned, and the men of Benjamin were dismayed, for they saw that disaster had come on them. Therefore they turned their backs before the men of Israel to the way of the wilderness. Comment: that was an explanation of why Israel was finally able to defeat Benjamin. When the smoke of the ambush started to rise up from Gibeah, that was a signal for the main army of Israel to turn around and confront the Benjamites. When the Benjamites saw the smoke, they knew it was disaster, so they lost heart and started running away. Still in verse 42. But the battle followed hard after them, and those who came out of the cities destroyed them in the middle of it. Comment: that's hard to decipher, but it seems the Benjamites scattered anywhere they could go. Israel chased them with determination, and Israel was helped by Israelites coming out of nearby cities. Verse 43. They surrounded the Benjamites, chased them, and trod them down at their resting place as far as near Gibeah toward the sunrise. Comment: some tried to run back to Gibeah, some tried to run east toward the sunrise, toward the wilderness, but wherever they ran and collapsed, whatever resting place they came to, someone chased them down and killed them. Verse 44. 18,000 men of Benjamin fell. All these were men of valor. They turned and fled toward the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, and they gleaned 5,000 men of them in the highways, and followed hard after them to Gidom, and struck 2,000 men of them, so that all who fled that day of Benjamin were 25,000 men who drew the sword. All these were men of valor. Comment: Israel killed 18,000 of them here, 5,000 of them there, and 2,000 more of them there, for a total of 25,000, which is an approximation of the 25,100 already stated back in verse 35. Verse 47. But 600 men turned and fled toward the wilderness to the rock of Rimmon, and stayed in the rock of Rimmon 4 months. Comment: only 600 Benjamites left, hiding out at a place overlooking the wilderness, a place called Rock of Rimmon. Verse 48. The men of Israel turned again on the children of Benjamin and struck them with the edge of the sword, both the entire city and the livestock and all that they found. Moreover, all the cities which they found they set on fire. Comment: this is annihilation of everything that breathes in all the cities of Benjamin, according to Yahweh's command in Deuteronomy 13, verses 15 and 16. Women, children, livestock included. No taking of plunder, total destruction of everything. We get confirmation in the next chapter that there aren't enough women left to provide wives, even for the 600 that got away. This history is recorded near the end of Judges with just one chapter to go. If the book were arranged in strict chronological order, This event would be in one of the early chapters. In the years after this occurred, abominations became so widespread that gathering a large army to confront them wasn't going to happen. That's the chapter. Judges 21 is next at landofhavilah.net. Judges 21. This is the map of Judges 20. Dan is here. Beersheba is here. Dan to Beersheba means all Israel. All Israel included the residents of Gilead across the Jordan River. The Benjamite city of Gibeah was somewhere just north of Jerusalem. Approximate location here. The army of Israel gathered at Mizpah, location unknown but close to Gibeah. The Israelites went back and forth from the battleground at Gibeah to Bethel here to inquire of God through Phinehas the priest. Quite possibly Bethel is in this exact location. Israel retreated to Baal Tamar, unknown. There are only 600 Benjamites left who stuck it out at the rock of Rimmon for 4 months. This is modern Rimmon, similar spelling, perhaps representative of ancient Rimmon, overlooking the wilderness. Judges 21 is next.